You're listening to the voice of IWA Flip here on Interfed Radio. With me today in studio, the one, the only, Derek Tuttle. Derek, you there?
I'm here, Flip. How you doing?
Oh man, doing well, doing well. Now, I tried to get you on a couple weeks ago when we were just getting started with this, but like we go to find out, a lot of managers have very busy schedules, and you're one of those guys that I put right up there, man. I mean, it looks like your day is filled every day, 365 days a week.
Yeah, dude. I teach full time. I also coach swimming. I was doing my master's straight through for a year. I'm married. I have two kids. My kids are involved in things, so I find myself doing a lot of IWA stuff very early in the morning. It's kind of my
Nice.
my peaceful time. Some people wake up and they have their coffee and read the newspaper. I wake up and pick strategies. So that's kind of what I do.
Nice. Now, just so everybody knows, I mean, normally I try and get managers on beforehand, off air, and kind of go over what we're going to cover. This interview here is going to be a little raw and uncut because of the time, of course, that Mr. Tuttle has. So,
Sure.
just bear with us. You were mentioning slightly right before we got on that you have about 20 per Fed.
Yeah, I run. I mean, I have to look at it for sure, but I run somewhere in the range of like 20 per Fed. Some of the Feds I have them split because I'll play like, for example, in gold, I play 6 in the BBL and 14 in the GWL. And then some leagues I looked at iron and I have a weird number. I have 18 in the Yellow Jacket League. And then in Jade, I play 20 in CZL and 20 in the LLL, the Lovely Ladies League, just to see if I can hit something on ladies titles at the end of the
Nice.
cycle. Yeah, so I'm somewhere in the 120 to 140 range, I would say. I mean,
Nice.
probably in the middle of that. It's not that bad.
Now, recently you took over as commissioner of the BBL. Is that the only league you're commissioning, Dirk?
That's correct.
Nice. Now, the BBL is an elite league, limit of six.
Right. It's all the elite leagues are six wrestler limit leagues. I believe they have to be above 50 cards. That's where I'm struggling right now. Activity has come way up, but I'm getting to about 44, 45 cards, but I've gotten to about 55 active wrestlers. And when I first took over the league, I think we might have had maybe in the 18 to 20 range.
Nice. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have noticed. I have noticed the activity moving up there in the BBO, and I think throughout the IWA activity in the elite leagues has gone up. Obviously everybody's chasing that belt.
Right, absolutely. And I think it was a good idea too. There's parts of it. There's things about it I like, and there's things about it I don't like because I feel like the Metropolitan champion is almost always going to be the elite champion because a lot of the limit leagues end up in the top 10.
Ah,
So
okay.
I'm
So
not.
that's see
Yeah,
that's another side of the game that you know. I mean, you guys that track. I mean, I'll tell you like this. I mean, I don't track a lot of those at-large titles as much
sure,
as I should. I mean,
sure.
obviously, it's a different side of the game, but yeah, I never noticed that. So the Metropolitan is in the same, like in a lot of the same categories as the Elite. Is that?
Yeah, the Metro is like if you're in a top 10 league, and they usually do that every cycle. I believe it's by matches. Um, if those league champions face each other for the Metropolitan title, but a lot of times the elite to get above 50 cards, you're in that top 10 to begin with. So
Aha.
if I'm not mistaken, the elite champion's been the Metro champion every time. I'd have to look at it. I know for sure this cycle because it was from the NWL. Um, but I'd have to look at it to be sure about that. But it's a lot of overlap.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think what they were trying to do with it is it's good. It's it's like a limit league IWA wide title. Um, but they were trying to figure out the best way to do it. And I mean, some other leagues have come into it. I think the GNL will be one. I want to say the LNL will be one. Living Nightmare League. It's in Diamond. I want to say off the top of my head. I think
Bronze. Yeah, the bronze.
bronze.
Uh-huh.
Bronze. Okay. Um, which I could talk about that later. Scott Anderson, great job because the that league was completely dead about a year ago, and now they're up over 100 cards.
Oh yeah,
Um,
he's killing that league right now,
yeah,
literally,
yeah,
literally.
yeah. No, it's a good idea. I mean, this not to go off on a tangent, but the amount of user created content is what's really driven growth. I think a lot of the dead leagues have been taken over by leagues where managers have come up with concepts and built things up. GNL's one. The UNL's a really good one.
Oh
Melvin
yeah. Oh
DeJesus.
no, like I said, that was my I guess a poor joke in my thing. I mean, I was trying to be funny with the living nightmare and him killing it literally.
Oh yeah, no, he's killing it. It's funny too. I use that all the time. I see someone's killing it, and my in-laws are like, "You mean like they're actually killing someone?" And I'm like, No. Like that's just me trying to be cool. I'm sorry, guys. So I mean, no, literally and figuratively. But it's. I think it was meant to make. Well, originally when the Gold Rush report started, before it was the IWA IWI War, I think what their goal was to expand the Gold Rush across feds. And some of those ideas have spread, like the limit leagues have spread to kind of, diamond and bronze in different places, and iron with the GNL. So those
Yeah.
ideas have
Oh,
branched out. It's like you said, some people don't play to track for the report hits; they're playing for the in-league stuff.
right.
And I think it's important that there's in-league competition like that across the board, not just in gold.
Oh yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Like I said, I've credited the IWAR for their the way they bring the commissioners together, the way they
Sure,
they're just their coordination of everything that they do.
absolutely.
So when I stepped away from their leagues and I looked out and obviously Mike Drake over in the Iron has a great thing going with the circle with the COH there.
Right.
Uh, and like I said, other than that one, I don't really see too much other coordination. So I'm trying my best to coordinate and get things going outside of outside of the gold, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
But
think it needs it
oh
because
yeah,
you learn the thing about it, and when I didn't even realize, just playing gold for so long, is that what happens in every other Fed, as far as the holds go, affects what happens in gold. And so I just started when I was playing just gold. I started tracking across the board just to see where the trends were and what the drops were. And I think it's difficult if you're just looking at a gold hold chart or just one Fed. Gold is just an example, but if you're just looking at one Fed, it makes it difficult because the more information you can get, it's like playing a poker game. The more information you can get, the better you can do, the more consistent you could be. And I would see myself going from low 490s to like high 490s, at least with one guy every cycle once I started tracking across the board.
nice.
Yeah, so I think, and that's not just a brag. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that other than that. Being in virus is one of them, but you see so much of it when the game opens up to all the feds. So I think playing, having a league that's like those leagues in gold, but having them in other feds is really important.
Oh yeah, no, and more to that point. I mean, it's one thing as a rookie when you're coming in. I mean, until this recent Go Green, I mean, you were, your eyes were pretty much closed to the entire IWA.
Right, right. It's the Go Green and putting the bulletins online has done so much that you could see what's going on everywhere else. It kind of opens up to you could see who's doing what. The dungeon unfortunately has kind of died as a property. I
Yeah,
mean,
I don't think we've mentioned the dungeon here on Interfed Radio. I think that's the first time someone's brought it up. But can you give us a little bit of history, a little bit?
sure. With the internet and the advent of message boards, the dungeon, the IWA dungeon became like the unofficial hangout for people playing the IWA for a long, long
Ah,
time.
gotcha. And
And
it was just like a bulletin board, message board, Derek.
yeah, it's just I believe it's through pro boards. It's just like if you ever played an EFED or ever put it anywhere else, it's one of those message boards, and it's just for a place for managers to come together and talk about the IWA and to brag most of the time and to talk about other things and get things going. And recently, I mean, I would say when in 2012 when I first came back, it was very active. There was a lot of people that were talking on it, but I've noticed within the past 2 years. I came back in January 7th, 2017. It was dying, and recently it's just been completely dead. Like there's not even a thread for each Fed about hits and who did what. It used to be a thread,
Oh
you know,
wow.
as soon as the Fed would drop, what people who had the highest strat total, because that's I think a lot of times what people use to figure out, okay, do I have a shot at the Fed? Do I have a shot at World? And now I see everything being through Facebook.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I've noticed that trend over the last couple of years. I mean, it seems like everyone kind of piggybacked off of the IWAR, Facebook groups, and it
Sure.
seemed like everybody's, opened up one for, their league, just to kind of, provide information to different, managers that are in that league, so. It has allowed managers to kind of, get a little more continuity with what they're doing in terms of, the in-league stuff like you're mentioning.
Right. I think the Facebook groups have been good in that they've helped people to coordinate, um, new leagues especially, and people use the Facebook Messenger. Um, I think it kind of goes back to, I'm sure a lot of us had AOL, and we liked having AOL Instant Messenger, and we liked having that one central place to go and talk to people.
Oh
So I
yeah,
think people have used Facebook to do their promos, to pump up their leagues, to coordinate with other people. We have a group chat for Virus through Facebook, so that's how we communicate most of our things. It's easier to do it that way. A lot of people used to use email chains, and we tried using the email chain for a little while, and it's hard to check it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
You can get to that Facebook Messenger on your phone. You can send
right,
someone a quick message and then go back and read it. Email, sometimes you're going through a whole chain of it, and you don't know who's responding to who. And in Facebook, you can tag someone, and even in the group chat, you could say, "Hey, look at this," or whatever. So
right.
I think, like you said, Iowa sort of started that whole thing of getting people together there, and I think they use it for the rookies that come in to kind of help guide them to new leagues and just kind of give them guidance as far as what they're going to do post graduation. So, and I think everybody's hopping on that, and it's a great thing. And it's bringing a lot of managers back to the league. I think a lot of people are realizing that the IWA is still around. And I think in the past like 2 years, it's brought a lot of people back who weren't playing.
Oh yeah, no, and I definitely want to credit the new Go Green because myself, it was hard for me to look around. I mean, I don't want to consider myself a cheapskate, but I just didn't want to pay a dollar to get every single
Right.
bulletin. I was
Yep.
like really, you're gonna make me do that
Yep.
But
Yep.
again, different sides, different games. Everybody has their style that they play.
Right.
Obviously, you've mentioned you're a report guy, and once that report hits, you want to see how many virus guys or how many of your stablemates have
Sure.
hit.
Sure. Absolutely. I think what I try to do the best is I like to try to play it all different ways. Because really I didn't even hit anything until this year. Um, January of 2018, I want to say, is the first time I ever saw it. So I played a whole year coming back without doing anything, just kind of learning the game. And when I first got invited to Virus, just kind of picking things up that otherwise I would have never picked up. Like real obvious things like hold 25, like stuff that people don't point out to you unless you're in a stable like that. Just little things like that and trends. But I try to play the game all different ways. I like the Limit League, doing the BBL. I've played some other leagues too, like the GNL is really great in Iron. I've tried to play all different types. Limit leagues, unlimited leagues, just themed leagues, just to get a good sense and just have a balance. I kind of like to try to do all different things the best that I
Now,
can.
obviously, we had Robbie Blood on here not too long ago, and he said the same. He said he was in the similar boat that you're in, where hey, I play this style because it fits my lifestyle. I I do have very busy lifestyle, so I'm not going to generate a 40-page trash talk
Right,
every week. That's just not going to happen because of my life.
right, right.
You know,
And I think some of those for those players, if you want to call like people that chase the report, like me and some others, like we use the Lone Wolf League. A lot of people to do that to get really
okay,
involved with the trash talk, or some of the other leagues. Take it. Um, okay.
that are more limited, that the commissioners are kind of generating angles and you know keeping the different titles and stuff moving along is what
Right.
I say. And I did notice that I did credit the LWL for bringing what I call at-large players into their trash talk. Because
Yeah.
it's hard when you have a big roster to focus on every Fed. So kind of boiling it down to that one Fed where, hey, you know what, this is the one, and this is the even playing field, like they say.
Right. Yeah. I think, and that's sort of my where my situation is that doing the golds, doing the BBL, writing the commissioner report. I like my iron and steel to be very low key. So I play, I'm looking to see where I'm still learning in iron. And so to be honest with you, until very recently, I had just played in gold and diamond. And then probably within the last few months, then I slowly moved over to Jade, to the CZL. And then when Allie started the High Rollers League with Hammy and some other people, I jumped into bronze. And then just it was a progression. So it's nice to have in gold, at least have time in between to write that commissioner report, because I do track for Wrestler of the Year. I track some other things, and plus trying to keep everything updated, spreadsheets and whatnot for each Fed. It's nice to have like one or two leagues where I really will do trash talk. I'll do the big baller stuff in HRL. I'll do my stuff in gold, for Terror Tuesday, which has become an ultra-violent underground in 2019. We'll talk about that
Nice.
later. Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. But I like to have some creative. I like to have a mix. I like to have some creative. And I think you see some of your big roster players, or at-large players as you call them, will mix it in. Like Frank Belcher will do it. Mike Cook, Robbie, Randy Angel, guys like that. Will have some leagues where they do creative alongside doing some of the leagues where they might just play multis, or they might just run maybe 20 guys just to see what they can hit. So yeah, it's nice to have that mix, and the LWL is probably the beginning of that for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, no, I mean when I remember when they inaugurated that league and I heard it was just going to be a one-on-one aspect, I was just kind of, my jaw dropped and I was like,
Yeah.
now I'll be honest with you, I'll tell you what kept me away from the LWL all these years was the fact that I was under the impression that there was even more coordination among stables.
Hmm.
So I was under the impression that I was going to go there as a solo manager and run into, let's say, three virus guys that were, flow in their six man or flow in their tags,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I was just going to be like, what's the point of being in this league?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've been talking to more people. They're like, you know what, Phil? Yeah, no, very few people do that. It's,
Yeah.
maybe one or two managers are coordinating, from time to time to run an angle, but in terms of, all seven virus guys getting together and saying, we're gonna flow together in the LWL, it's like, nah, brother, it's just not.
Yeah. It's, you know what? I think some of those leagues, and even in leagues, the, when you're in a league like that, it's all every man for himself for the most part. I know some people do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard that one before. It's like, nah, you know what? We're in there to compete just like you, brother. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, it's like the BBL when it started, and I had like 18, 20 guys, and it was really just, it was me, Rick Angel, um, Garfield Johnson, Mitchell Johnson, and then there was this other guy who plays as Edge Demon. So I probably had like 24 guys. And I said, we're just going to compete against each other. I mean, we're all in the same stable. We're all on the title page, but, we're going to face each other at the TV show and the pay-per-views, and we're just going to write it and run with it. So, um, yeah, I don't think in the LW, I think everybody's, kind of out for themselves in most part. And,
yeah,
and
literally a lone wolf, literally
yeah,
alone.
but you know what? The other thing too is even if you coordinate with people, you still only get that one flow because you only have
Right.
one guy. And and a lot of times I've seen, guys that run, literally 90 tag flows in one Fed, and they still get beat. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
that sounds crazy, but it's
Oh,
true.
it
And they
is.
still
Yeah.
get beat. They still get beat. I mean, they have to have the right one, which there's four. Well, never mind. I won't go too deep into it. I won't go too deep in the woods, but just 90 flows just seems so silly to me. Like,
Oh yeah, no, like you said, without giving away too many secrets. Like I tell everybody, I go, look, I go, you're still playing against a randomizer, or what do they call it, a computer randomizer. I go,
yeah,
so it's still going to generate, a random number. I go, I've boiled it down to this, Derek, and I'll give my secret away on it.
sure,
I pretty much, I got a chart, thank, to a couple managers that I'm on here with,
sure.
got a chart. I kind of did my weight of the different, different hold values, and then I based my chart on, let's pretend 28A was a weak hold in the bronze. So
Yeah.
I avoid 28A, even if it might hit this cycle. I
Uh-huh.
pretty much built my chart on the strongest holds of that Fed,
Hmm.
and I'll just keep the same flow.
Yeah.
I'll keep the same flow until it hits.
Yeah.
And like I tell everybody, not the best way to play, not the best way to play the lotto, not the best way to do it. But hey, because I lean more towards the trash talk.
Yeah.
I just, I have my hold and I stick with it until it hits. and I just keep my trash talk revolving around my my wins and losses, which are mostly losses.
Yeah. No, but you know what? I guess without getting too deep into the woods, if you look at it, I mean, this is kind of common knowledge. You can look at it and kind of split it, if you do probabilities or you do statistics. I mean, for tags, there's 47 flows without splits possible, unless a hold splits, which means most people know if 27s go 30, 29. So in my mind, to run 90, if you've already eliminated a certain number of possibilities, it's just I look at it, I'm like, how if you're only getting, but yeah, the thing is, I'm always trying to gather information because none of us have it down perfect, no matter how good anyone is.
Right.
So none of us, it's some algorithm in a computer in Willowick, Ohio, that none of us have figured. The best we could do is kind of narrow it down to maybe like 12 possible holds in the front or 13 and maybe 10 on the back. And you can kind of look at some things and look for some trends, but ultimately, here's a good example. Last cycle, I looked at what was I was looking at the back five, and across the board, like the least due hold was hitting in the back five, from iron to bronze. It was like whatever's the least due at that value until jade, and then at jade it was like the second most due. So even if you think you have a system down of what's going to hit, sometimes you talk yourself out of it, or
Oh
you
yeah.
think or like it's just certain things you sit there and track, and you're like, well, this makes sense. Sometimes it's just coincidence. Sometimes jade is just wacky. So there's a million things you can look at.
And then
But
and,
none
and
of
then and then you got people that are throwing around some kind of like IWA myth, because I heard this one, and you know what, I heard it, and I have to go back and check on some of this because they were saying that after an IWA ran event like the specialty titles
uh
or whatever other specialty events that they do, that the cycle or the federation that comes after, or excuse me, the cycle that comes after usually will have or a double drop, so a double 26 or a double 27.
yeah,
And I haven't tracked it that well, so I'll go back and I'll peek. But I mean, you have myths like those also floating around that people,
yeah, yeah.
there's a lot of IWA wizardry or whatever you want to call it, in the back pages.
And it's probably just some dude sitting in a house randomly picking, and here we are like obsessing over it. And I always wonder too, well, it's funny to me. I sit there and think about it. I'm like, we do all this stuff. You do the Interfed and the IWAR and this Mike Drake does his things, and we do all these commissioner-based leagues. I wonder if they even know that we do all this, and I got to think too, what type of ad do you put out to employ someone for the IWA? Like, what does that Craigslist ad look like? And when that person accepts that offer, that job, do they realize like, oh, hey, a bunch of grown men are picking these holds, and they've basically turned this into Dungeons and Dragons, but but we're just giving these holds random values, and it doesn't even matter, and it's really not even wrestling, to be fair. It's just like picking,
Do
it's
you want
crazy.
it? Do you think that there's actually somebody there picking the holds? I've gone to the conclusion, Derek, that I think it's just a randomized computer, like a random number generator.
There's definitely an algorithm to it. Um, I don't know what it is. I don't think it's a guy just randomly, but
Okay, okay. I was like,
yeah.
I go, please tell me you don't think there's a guy with a magic hat picking numbers out of it.
No, 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 no. But
That would
I
that would kill me.
definitely, when I've thought about it for a long time, there's definitely an algorithm, and there's definitely ways to adjust it. Because there's certain things that happen over time, and you're like, this cycle has been easier because things have lined up easier. Like very obvious things have lined up. But certain cycles, like for example, if you have a lot of your feds in a cycle that hold 25s at 30, I've found that sometimes the drops are easier to pick for me. But when it's at 28 or 29, I've found that I have a harder time nailing the drops because I feel like there's more random events to kind of throw you off. And it's the same thing with the double 43 on the back five. I feel like sometimes if one seems more obvious, like the front of the back, the other is harder. So, like I said, we don't. Who knows? I mean, I don't have it perfect. I've done okay, but I don't have it perfect. no one really has it perfect, but we're just trying to gather information and pick the best 15 holds out of a random 90 that we can. I mean, it is what it is.
I mean, you could imagine. I mean, I'm at work sometimes, and I got my computer, and I got charts out, and I got one screen with the IWA page. I have another screen with YouTube on, and coworkers are passing by, and they're like, "Are you all right?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I'm just trying to figure this out." And they're like, "Well, let me see what you got there." And they start looking at their numbers, and they're like, "Yeah, dude, this makes no sense." I'm like,
Yeah.
"That's what I'm saying." That's what
Yeah.
I'm.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Uh,
It's wild. I mean, I don't even know, like it's hard to explain. Um like I started playing, I don't know when you started. I started the first time I ever played it, I think I saw an ad in Wrestling World magazine. This is maybe 1990. I was about 7 years old. And at the time, there was a bunch of those games popping up. There was IWA. There was another one. It was like Computer Wrestling Federation. There was like Computer Championship Wrestling. There was another one called Fantasy Wrestling Alliance.
huh.
There's just ones in like every wrestling magazine because there's a million out back then. And I remember like putting in for it and getting it and just not even understanding what was going on. Like like
Right. Oh yeah.
you try to explain it to someone and it's like totally insane. Um, but yeah, it's a wild game, and you're people. My wife refers to it as the spreadsheet game because she's a corporate controller for a company, and she uses spreadsheets every day. And I'm an athletic director. I'm teaching kids how to play kickball. So she's like, "What are you doing with all these spreadsheets?" And I'm like, "I'm trying to figure this game out, man. Leave me alone."
Oh,
I'm trying to figure out what holds are going to hit 30. Leave me alone.
I
So yeah,
love it, man.
it's become different over time. You were saying earlier too about one wrestler in the LWO. Before all this Go Green and before it was email and when it was mailing it in, man, I only ever played with one wrestler, and either I hit or I didn't. And you know, of course, with time when it was email and you didn't have to wait for you didn't have to hope the mail got there on time. Because back in the day, you'd send it in and sometimes it would get there after, and then they'd play your matches and your strats the next cycle.
Oh
So
yeah,
you
no,
were,
I've heard some nasty or some managers are like, oh yeah, we would send our matches in and it's like, bro, the mail would just it would be there would be a rainstorm and
yep,
everything would get just next thing you know we're getting a message back from Kim like we couldn't run your matches because we couldn't read them. It's like,
yeah,
oh
yeah,
man.
yeah. It was rough. It was it's just weird how that all works out. But now, obviously it's a lot easier now. I'm just sure that they're dealing with all kinds of emails from us and trying to figure out what we did and what we didn't do. And it's just a lot easier now to do that kind of stuff. You don't have to worry about the mail kind of messing it up for you. And then I'd always get them late after because I had a buddy that played it with me, and he'd get his bulletin a day before mine. And I'm like, why does your mail come before mine?
Oh,
And
you guys are lucky. Yeah, dude, we here in LA we would get them maybe 2 3 weeks after you guys.
yeah,
And this is even recently. I mean,
yeah,
when my 2012 comeback,
yeah,
I'd be online and people would already be talking about what's going on, and
yeah,
I'd be begging people like, could you screenshot it? Could somebody scan it and put it online so I can see it?
yeah,
Because I'm
for
not gonna
sure.
get it. I'm not gonna get it for 5 days.
Yeah. What's wild too is, man, when I lived in Wheeling in West Virginia, I originally grew up there before I moved here about 10, 12 years ago to Florida. Um, Wheeling is 3 hours from Cleveland, and Willowick is like a suburb of Cleveland. So it was literally 3 hours from my house, and I'd get them late. I'm like, it's
What
three
the heck?
hours. I'm like, it's 3 hours away. It's not even that far. I could drive there, but
And
you
pick
know,
a hey knock on their door. Hey, can you give me the BBL bulletin, please?
yeah, please. I'm trying to get straight for Diamond. Like, can you hook me up, please?
Oh man.
Um, but I can't even imagine. And what's crazy too is back in the day, the IW was so big. Because there weren't large rosters. It was hundreds of managers playing with maybe 5, 6 wrestlers apiece. And
Now take me back because I've asked people, but not no one's been able to give me a clear answer. Um, was there was there six feds,
yeah,
or
there
was it?
Well, what I think happened is what I
There
think
was
happened is there was I
it,
think what happened at first there was one. It was all one big thing, and then someone will have to fill in the details a little more for me because there used to be bulletins. Half the bulletins would come out, and then maybe like a week or two later, the other half would come out, and it was all one set of holds. And somebody figured out how to get the holds for the early leagues and
right.
communicate them.
I've
Yeah,
heard that pen pal rumor.
yeah, and so they were. I don't know. There's people that know about this way more than I do because I wasn't that deep into it. But we get the early bulletins, and then would play the later leagues, and then the IWA caught on and banned some people over it, and then they started going to federations. And I want to say someone that knows more than me, maybe like a Matt Riley would know better, but I think at first it was East, West, North, South. I don't think it was. I don't think it was like iron, steel, but I could be wrong about that. And then over time they started adding in like the different iron whatever. And then at one point I think Jade was all ladies leagues.
Interesting.
Yeah, or it was either Amber or Jade or something like that. And then over time they settled into what we have now, which is like one ladies league per fed. And originally it was like one specialty league per fed, but a lot of things have changed because guys have changed leagues and asked for certain things. And now we have I want to say it's like either double Asiatic. There's like a couple hardcore leagues per fed. So it used to be one, certain feds would be more, someone would know it better than I. I'm starting to learn it from talking to people over time. But someone like Matt Riley would know that a lot better than I do. But that was kind of the idea. It used to be all one set of holds, and then it's called the ELM, early league manipulation, scandal happened. Then they went to the federations and different deadlines and whatnot, to kind of avoid that problem. But I could imagine if they would have did it with one set of holds now, it would be
Oh
it would be
no.
it'd be a mess. I mean, it
Oh
was
yeah.
different. Yeah, it would be crazy. But yeah, so
Yeah, no,
they
I've gone on air already crediting the IWA for keeping an open mind to all the different play styles. I mean, so
sure.
like to your point earlier in terms of do they, are they aware of what we're doing? I want to say they are. I really want to give them that credit that they do keep a close eye on the community because they wouldn't open up if they weren't aware as to how many managers want certain I mean
Yeah,
even to your point right now with the current status of that Metropolitan title.
yeah,
I mean that might be something that they have to address, maybe something that they're going to have to revamp because obviously you're not the first one that's mentioned that, and like I said, I definitely want to credit them for keeping a close eye, what's going on out here.
sure. And I don't. It's not a complaint really from me. It's just like when it first came out, a lot of people that talked, and there was discussion on the dungeon even about it before it kind of just died completely. It was like, isn't this just going to be the same as the Metro? So I don't know. I do think that they keep track of it, but it's funny. I don't know. They must not know, or maybe they do from the emails they get, like how people that live and die by it. Because I know a couple of people that I won't say the name, but there's that one manager that when something's going on, he'll email the league to tell the actual owner of the IWA to go f himself and stuff like
Oh
that.
wow.
and Kim or whoever, quote unquote Kim, will email back, have a great weekend, and then the next day the guy. And then the next day the guy will be fine, but it's frustrating. I mean, and to go back to what you're saying about size of the IWA when they did the federations, like there were probably 20 leagues per fed, and you'd imagine that most of the managers maybe had between one, two, three guys. So there must have been a ton of people playing back then, and now it's kind of a niche, whatever you would pronounce that. It's kind of a small market, but I think a lot of the people are coming back because of the user created content, because of Facebook. People are saying, "Oh, that's still around," and I think it has a renaissance because there's something charming about playing a game like that. It's like when the NES Classic comes out and everybody rushes out to buy it. There's something charming about having two buttons and four directions and stuff like that. So I think there's something like charming about the game and people's childhood memories. And to circle back to something I said earlier, like I started playing when I was 7 and 8, and there's something charming to me about having an understanding of it now. And some of the guys that played it then still play it now, like Kevin Elrod still plays, and he was jumping John Elway. And
Oh yeah, he's the first Hall of Famer, right? Is that
yeah, yeah, and his his drawings and stuff. His guys would be on the bulletins when you used to get them years and years ago. When we got the bulletins, they were they were tri-folded, and they would be in like a regular envelope. And his, the U.S. champion would be on the envelope. That was like the perk of being the U.S. champion.
nice?
And he would, he'd always be always like a top. There was a couple guys, Hammond Egger, Rick Derringer, guys that would always be like 10,000 victories and stuff like that. Um, so it's just the stuff. It's wild that those people still play, and to play with them and talk to them, like it's in a funny way. It's like these guys were like the superstars of the game when I played before, even when I played when I was like 15, and they're still playing and still kicking ass. They're still doing
Oh yeah.
great things. So
Now, to piggyback off of the old bulletins and fast forwarding to the new bulletins,
mhm.
have you taken a look at the WWL?
Yeah, I was really surprised. Melvin is a member of Virus, so he's been talking to us about bringing doing the league, this idea he had, what he was going to put into it. And he just kept telling us, hey, I'm going to do a lot of things. I'm going to do a lot of things. Then I open up that's actually how I got the holds for bronze early, is because the WWL one went up way before all the other leagues. And
Aha.
yeah, that was the trick. Because I went to check it. I went to click, when it has the league listings. I wanted to see if it said coming soon. And just by chance, I got it. And I started telling everybody, I was like, hey, this one's up. We can see what we got at least. And anyway, back to the design. But just a custom bulletin. And it's just something different that we haven't seen in the game in a long time.
Right. Oh
Uh,
no, I went on air in the previous show and oh yeah, I was jealous. I was looking around. I was like, wow, why don't the IWA tell us we could do stuff like this? So
yeah. But you
uh,
know what? Even if he's the first to do it, now people can start to kind of look at. And I think he's just doing his commission report is just online. So that's
oh
probably
okay.
the one. I think that's the one caveat is he didn't want to limit to what he could put in there. So I don't know if the bulletin is all online or just that report. Um,
Gotcha.
there was a league like that when the Center Stage League started. The Center Stage League is actually what is the genesis of the Go Green movement, because the Center Stage League was the first league that was completely online. They didn't send out a bulletin for it. So
Interesting.
yeah,
But
so
then again, there wasn't. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Center Stage League also didn't really have too much trash talk.
no, it wasn't a big league. I don't think it ever got too big. I think it was like more of an experimental idea. Um, of how they can move the game sort of online to cut costs or just do something different. Um, but yeah, they never had much in terms of activity as far as matches or wrestlers, because I never remember seeing it much above like 20 cards.
Right.
Um,
It seemed like a very like exclusive group that hey, you know what? We want to play for the front page and let's just let's avoid the bulletin type.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so. I guess that's what it was. I don't know what much more about it than that, but I just know it was like the first. I remember, like you, and coming back in 2012. I remember that being the one that was online completely. And so I think that's kind of where they started this whole idea of, putting them online and saving money on shipping and printing and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. No, now the BBL now. I know on here we want to kind of go over a few characters
Sure,
and
sure,
kind of like you said, you have your characters even though you don't have as much time, you know like you were saying, you have a variety. So the
sure.
variety and your variety in the BBL that I've gotten to know is the War Beast.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of my main guys there: the Almighty Sheik, Joe Brody, and Manoa. It's actually based off of guys like a real group of wrestlers that I know out in California. They do PCW Ultra, if you're familiar with that.
You, you,
That's a
you're the you're the second person that mentions that. That's the one in Reseda, right?
Yeah, that's a real rad brand of wrestling. I think you would really like it because the gentleman who runs it is the Sheik,
Nice.
and he's a very creative. Um, he's a very creative dude. He comes up with a lot of really cool stuff that I think you would dig and a lot of people would dig. He was the guy that got permission from the Bruiser Brody family to make T-shirts, and he made Bruiser Brody shirts, and he just was doing different things, and just a
Nice.
good dude, smart dude. Was the NWA World Champion for a while, kind of before this NWA Renaissance that's taking place now. But yeah, Warbeast is a cool thing. They're just a violent group. And I thought that'd be a cool place to put them in as the Bloodbath League. But I've got those guys. I've got Dash Bennett, Darren Smythe, and Tim Hott. It's actually me and my buddy Jeremy's wrestling names and my best friend, Tim
Nice.
Hott. And
You're like we got to bring these guys into the IWA. Yeah.
yeah. And so going back to my character part of it, before the league kind of expanded and activity picked up, I focused a lot on Warbeast and used the other guys as kind of my job guys. But now that the league's picking up, King Phillip is there, and some of the other guys that have come into the league. Scott Anderson brought some guys in. Just different managers have come in. I've kind of put my guys on the back burner to focus on, and the OGs of the BBL, like Rick Angel has the Kid family, who recently has been very dominant, and Mitchell Johnson has the MJs, and I've kind of turned his guys his main guy into a cult leader on Terror Tuesday.
Nice.
Yeah, because the thing is that in the BBL there wasn't a lot of trash talk, and I just said I want to create a report and I want to get some things going. Can I just write some things for you? Let me know if it works for you. If it doesn't, tell me and I'll change it. So some guys have been sending stuff in. Some guys have just enjoyed, hey, I'm in the mix.
Right.
People.
And I'm right there with you. Like I said, I remember, when I was making my transition out of the MML, and I was like, hey, dude, I'm gonna take these guys over, and it was, you were in like a high period in your time where you were busy, and I was like, I get it, brother. I'm there
Yeah,
whenever you want to work. I'm here for you.
sure.
And yeah, no, it's definitely one of those things that, I made it, as soon as I gave up commissioning,
Yeah,
I made it my, my, priority to get to leagues that either have new commissioners or leagues that are, elite and are trying to get a little more push for that elite title. So
sure. Yeah, I'm hoping we can get to it this. Like, I mean, if we can get to 50 cards, because we've had a couple of the last, I want to say maybe out of the last like 2 out of 4 gold Fed champs have come out of BBL. I want to say Cobra Kid and MJ have had the gold Fed within the past couple cycles. So we've got a lot of really good. And then right before that, I had a 500 league champ there. But gold Fed it was tough. I can't remember who took it. I was Tim Hott that I had won the league title, but I can't remember who took gold Fed that cycle. But it's been a competitive league, and there's a lot of good players and a mix of people. And it is a limit league, but stable initials are allowed, so people could see that the different stables are playing. And we have probably the best stable diversity, because we have people from EST. Zach Gargas's group. We have Locke. We have the Ninja Man, the Kick stable that came over from the
oh
NWL.
yeah,
We have IMT. We have Virus. We have Edge. We have all players from all different places and different stables. And that's why I keep trying to tell people, like, hey, bring those people over. Let's have some, because you look at a lot of leagues, it's dominated by one stable,
right.
especially the wide open ones. The ones that are wide open, it's usually like IMT is in this league, Virus is in this league, and Edge is in this league. And there's a little bit of cross pollination, but there's not. You see the open leagues, it's just kind of like that. So this for me is, let's bring some of the players that are in NWL into a league that may not be as intimidating as the Battle Royal League, because the BRL is tough,
Oh yeah,
and a lot of those guys that graduate from the NWL, like the next elite league to go to for a lot of them is the BRL, and a lot of those guys, if they it's sink or swim, and if they sink, we don't want to lose players. We
right.
want the NWL to get these guys into another league and flourish. So if they can maybe meet some different people, meet some different managers, learn some things, be competitive. And I think our match deal is really good too. If you spend the $12, you take the match deal, instead of doing just the 20 bonus matches against the bottom 20 guys, you could do 2 of your guys can get 10 regional title matches.
Nice.
So theoretically, if you have 6 guys in there, 4 of your guys can get 5 regional shots, 2 of them can get 10, and you only spend $12.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially like you're saying. I mean, because that's one of the things when I'm in some of these smaller leagues. Nothing against the scrubs. Because yeah, if I wanted to pad my stats, that it works out well. But
Right.
that is a beautiful thing with the BBL that it allows you to use those to go after those regional champs.
Right, because as much as we're talking about report hitting and in league play and stuff like that, it's still cool to win. It's still cool to have an opportunity um, to get on the title page. It gets you a league shot the next month. Just those little things you never know. Because I mean, like a guy like Brad Norman won the world title a couple cycles ago. I don't think Brad has very many guys IWA wide. So to get someone like that an opportunity at it is cool. Like make everybody competitive. I think it evens the playing field.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So
Now in terms of what we got going on there in the BBL, I know when I had the MML going and you took over the BBL, we kind of worked an angle where, some of my characters, did the whole. My characters were they had just gotten the boot from one of our shows in the MML,
right,
and they reached out to the Sheik and the BBL cast that you
right,
had to
yep,
kind of lift them up, and that's kind of what transitioned my guys into the BBL because they've gone back into the BBL to kind of give thanks to the Sheik for all the help, and it kind of worked out.
yep, yep, absolutely. We just had our pay per view, our New Blood Rising, and one of the big angles was Kickman of a Kickman of Judo Man of Kick. I'm sorry, I keep saying Kick because it's Judo, Wuxia Man, and Ninja Man. Well, he had one of the best cycles. The guy won the Battle Royal. He won two of my commissioner titles. They won League Six, League Tag. So, they had a really great cycle, really hot run. So they started challenging to, Rattler Kid, who's been my terror champion since we started. Um, and so once that match ended, the lights went out, and here's King Philip, and he just takes everybody out, just to assert his dominance, to stake his claim as to being the top guy in the league. Um, so it's there's a lot of cool stuff going on there. We have, like I said, Holy MJ is leading his cult. We have the trio of terror. It's Ghostface, it's Leatherface, it's those guys. Wreaking havoc. There's just a lot of cool stuff going on. Scott here's got his guys in there. Eudoxus Osborne and his crew is in there. Starting a little story with the premier players. So there's just a lot of stuff going on that's really cool. And I think the new people coming in, Robbie Blood took one of the commissioner titles this past at the pay-per-view. Just a big mix. I'm trying to feature everyone who's coming in versus my own guys. Like I'm not that worried about my own. I mean, I'll get whatever I get. But I do settle when I have the big matches. I do take the strats. Leading up to it, I'll have each guy win some job matches to build themselves up. But when it comes to the big final showdown, best strategy wins.
Now,
So
now, one of the things I've gone on air is in saying that I'm not sure if you said you were in the GNL for some time.
I did. Was in the GNL for a little while, and I ended up moving because I was in the GNL in the Vixens United League in the Iron and Iron Fed, and then I ended up consolidating all my guys and moving over to the Yellow Jacket League just because nothing. The GNL is awesome. I just was trying to kind of whittle down cost wise what I was spending every
Right.
cycle, and just kind of put everybody in one league. And I couldn't do it all in the women's league, and I couldn't do it all in the GNL, so I had to find somewhere else to do that.
And the Yellow Jacket, that's the Pioneer League.
Correct.
Nice.
Yeah. So, um, like I said, I just wanted to kind of consolidate where I was, and the GNL is awesome. It's a great league. It's active. There's not a ton of people in it. Probably somewhere in the range of like maybe 10, 11 managers, but everybody's got three guys.
Right.
So they're all trying to figure it.
And one of the things I'm enjoying right now with the GNL is the pace that those guys are running.
Yeah,
They allow for angles to build up and
absolutely.
like everybody has busy lives. Everybody's trying to squeeze in their IWA fix from time to time. So when you have a pay-per-view like they have every five cycles or so, it allows different managers to squeeze in some
Yeah,
angle building.
right. And that's the same. Not to just change it all. We'll come back to GNL, But that's what I tried to do when I sat down and thought about big shows. I want to wait 4 or 5 cycles in between because you got to transition. When you come down from that pay-per-view, you have to say, well, what's next?
Right.
And you can't always jump into it right away. You're going to have some, and different pay. You can't end all of the storylines at the pay-per-view because then you're coming in cold. Some things you got to settle at this pay-per-view. Some things, the next chapter is at this pay-per-view, and the ending chapter is coming down the road. So that's a good thing that the GNL is doing right now, is letting some time for things to build up, and focusing on all the different talent, and the trash talk is very active. So it's very smart the way they're doing that.
Oh yeah, no, and that's something that I've actually been waiting for you to get a little free time so we can coordinate some of the BBL.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
the other league that I'm dibbling dabbling in right there in the gold is the ASL.
Right.
They got a lot going on there, and in the same sense, like I tell Peter and Frank who run that league, it's hard sometimes because you have managers that have been there 15, 20 years plus,
Right.
and trying to get something over on them when they've been the stronghold of a league.
Right.
And even if I am bringing a character that's whoever, it's tough to go into that league, or like for instance, like the BBL.
Right.
The kid family's been there, and in my eyes, they're the face. They're the stronghold in the BBL. They've kept that league alive through
Mm-hmm.
its slow days. So
Right.
I don't want to go in there, and as much as I enjoy my characters and want to get my characters over, I still recognize the fact that the kid family there has been the stronghold. That
Yeah.
and I think that's important to get out there and but make it clear that they are still the face or the stronghold of the BBL. And we're definitely here to challenge, and we definitely want to put on a good show for everybody that's watching or everyone that's following along. But I don't want to come in, and same thing like with the ASL. I don't want to come in and try and step on anyone's ankles or anyone's toes. So
Right. Right. Absolutely. But you know what the thing is that a lot of these leagues too, the ASL has been around for a long time, and actually the ASL is credited with being the longest running consecutive league, and it's actually the BBL. The ASL has been closed temporarily. The BBL is ran nonstop. So
nice,
that's a nice little tidbit for everybody. If you look, I think we're at like somewhere in the 450s. I just don't have it right in front of me right now, cycle
nice,
wise. But the ASL is always the oldest league, but the BBL is the longest consecutively running league because the BBL is never shut.
nice.
Yeah, so it's just
That's a nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a nice tidbit to have, and it's one of those reasons why like I wanted to come in, and when I saw it kind of dying off, I said, man, this is a good chance to learn, because I tried a concept league, it didn't get enough support. So I said, let me take a slow league, let me learn from it, and let me build it up. And I really, really enjoyed it. It's been really fun. It's a nice creative outlet. So I've really enjoyed it so far.
Oh yeah, no, and I look forward to the future because you said 2019 we're revamping some of the shows on
Yep,
the BBL. So
absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna look at changing some of the things. We're gonna do one thing that I'm going to do to build up the roster of the BBL is I'm doing a 6-man tournament in 2019.
nice.
I just think it'd be something different. A lot of people do singles tournaments, tag tournaments. I want to do a 6-man tournament, give managers a chance to bring 6 wrestlers and bring 2 teams for it. I'm waiting until the NSL's tag tournament is over.
Okay.
Chris Myler's doing a really good job, kind of revitalizing that league, which was another dead league. Um, he's done a great job of building that league up and getting it to where it should be. And this
Oh
tag
yeah,
tournament will be
no,
really good.
and like I told Myler, I go, look, man, I may not agree with a lot of the stuff going on behind scenes. I go, but in terms of supporting you guys, and I was like, you know what, I'm here to support any any commissioner with their vision,
Sure.
And so he asked me, he's all like, hey, bro, I'm doing this tag tournament. Do you mind bringing over a tag team? I was like, I can't guarantee you that I'll be there, forever. I go, but
Yeah.
if it's just for the tournament, I don't mind. I go, count me in,
Yeah,
because
it's going to be big. It's going to be a really good tournament, and whatever you think, like honestly, it probably started as a troll on people, but you see he's put in the work,
oh
and
yeah,
one thing that I thought was really cool being in Virus with Chris is that historically, he races. He's a stock car racer, um, and a lot of times he had taken the summers off of the IWA because his time built up. And this past summer, he had stayed in it, did really well. Kind of got beat out on World a couple times when he could have won it, which is frustrating. But still, to do really well and stick with it, and to be here running a league now and doing all these things is really cool. So I'm in full support. NSL is a strong league right now. It's like probably a top 2 or 3 league match wise.
Oh yeah, very competitive right now.
So yeah, for sure, really competitive. I think it might be one of the first leagues to ever hit the limit in terms of number of wrestlers. Because I want to say with scrubs, it's somewhere around 250. Like between active wrestlers and the scrubs.
Wow.
Which is kind of unheard of in this time, because usually back in the day when they'd have maybe 50 wrestlers, they'd start a new league.
Right. Oh yeah. They just.
Yep. So I think that they're going to get to the point where they're going to have to either, they're just going to get to a point where it's too much. So it's good. That's a good thing. It's a good problem to have. It's a good being to it. Yeah.
If you think back to the beginning of the summer when the HRL opened up, or when they debuted,
yep.
They ran into that same problem where they were getting a big push of people that wanted to go there. So I believe they tried to do an HRL too.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if it just didn't work out because of the federation thing, the blocking aspect of the game. So just didn't work out for them.
Here's what was, I think what's kind of stopped that is they did let me go back and see if I can remember this correctly. The IWA didn't really want there to be another HRL with you able to put 20 more wrestlers into it. I think because of the cash prize. Because I was like, I'll put 20 more into it. I'll put 20 into the new HRL as well. And they said, well, we really would rather you split 10 and 10. And I said, well, you can't start a league with 20, allow 20 wrestlers and then not allow them and start another league and then you have to split them off. So
right.
I think that was the idea. And I think it started off hot because a lot of people thought, okay, I have a chance to win money. But when people saw how competitive it was, I think people were like, well, I'm never going to win it. Now,
interesting. Here's my take on how I see that the HRL and the current NSL. Yeah. And this is just me just being naive to the game, but the way I'm thinking is, okay, Derek is going to go to the NSL and take his wrestler Coca-Cola and pad his stats and then take him to the Yellow Jacket League so he can be in the top 4, top 5, top 10, to get a shot at the world and at the US. That's my frame of thought.
Well, that's I have to think of which guys. Like, I had a buddy of mine that passed away a couple years ago suddenly, and I use his name. Joe Allen is one of my wrestlers, so I'm actually going into if I want to say it's the HRL. I don't want to say it's the NSL. I think it's HRL, and I'm actually building him up because I want to put him in the Hall of Fame as a tribute to my buddy.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm like, man, thank you for doing this because I'm going to put Joe in the IWA Hall of Fame.
That's beautiful. That is. Yeah, beautiful.
Just a cool little thing, man. A kid I grew up with and played sports with from when we were like 7 years old. Passed right around the time of the Dallas WrestleMania when they were at the Cowboy Stadium.
Okay.
Just real suddenly, and
man.
Yeah. So I was just like, man, I always draw upon things I know and people I know for my wrestlers because sometimes when you're trying to come up with 20 names or however many names, you kind of you run out quick.
Oh yeah.
and to not duplicate across the board. So there's just sometimes you're like, oh, what can I use? And I used him as Joe Tuna. We knew him as Tuna. So I'm like, man, I have a chance to put him in the Hall of Fame. It'd just be cool.
You keep me posted, man, because whenever you put him in the Hall of Fame, we definitely got to have another show to highlight that inauguration there.
Yeah, I gotta look too. I'll look as we're talking, and I'll see where he's at now. I mean, it's gonna be a little bit, but he's getting there. So
nice. Now, Derek, like I said, I want to keep these shows going. Like I said, I want to keep this open. So, like I said, I want to invite you back as many times as your time will allow.
Absolutely.
Like if you ever have an event or something going on in the BBL that you want to, promote, definitely reach out to me, brother. Because like I said, I definitely want to have this line open and want to keep this moving forward.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go ahead and sign it off right there, Derek. And like I said, is there any last minute words, any last minute shout outs?
Man, I have to say before I cut it off, I can't say enough to thank all of the guys in Virus for this year. Um, the two inviting me. Look, I was a guy who knew nothing about the game. I knew what I knew, and it was very little. I still don't know very much, and a lot of those guys have taught me a lot this year, the past 2 years, and I really appreciate it because um, I just came back in 2017 just for fun, just for something to do, and to get back to the game. And they invited me to join a stable. Nobody else was. They let me sit there, and I wasn't hitting, I wasn't contributing. I was just a dude with six guys in the TTL, and their encouragement over time really helped me build up and figure things out and do better and have a great year. So I really appreciate all those guys and everything that they did for me this year, and that's really what last thing I wanted to say.
Awesome, awesome. You've been listening to the voice of the one and only Derek Tuttle and myself, IWA Flip. Like I said, keep listening. We got a lot coming in the next couple of weeks, so like I said, keep tuned in.